Good morning, Illini, and welcome back. I am your host, Matt Schrock, as always, with Healthy Illini. And the weather is turning beautiful outside. It is becoming a gorgeous spring here in Illinois. Of course, we're expecting snow to come at some point because it is Illinois. That happens just randomly. But it is beautiful outside. We've had some beautiful weather lately. And with that, we're talking today with some environmental topics. And so I'm excited to jump into it and introduce our guests to you. Today, I'm joined by two of our students here at the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. First up, we have a returning guest, Jenna Schaefer, who was here, I think, almost exactly a year ago. It was pretty close. You are an intern with iSee. iSee being the letters ISEE, stands for Institute for Sustainability and Energy and Environment, if I can get that out. But you're an intern with that. You're also a senior in environmental economics and policy with minors in Spanish and sustainability. Jenna, thanks for being here again.
Yes, thank you.
And we're also joined by another intern from iSee, but this is your first time here, Emily Dickett. Emily is a senior in civil and environmental engineering and international engineering with a minor in Spanish as well. So thanks for being here, Emily. Okay, so I brought you both in because we're going to talk about some environmental stuff today. Environmental health is a really important topic. Constantly, we hear about it constantly. It's not something that is going away anytime soon. The idea of being environmentally conscious is important to care for our environment on both a local and a global level. And so we've talked about some of that. But, for a lot of us, we've heard these conversations, or we've heard, the peripheries of these conversations for most of our lives. We've heard about recycling, we've heard about energy saving, and we've heard about limiting waste in general. And these are all good conversations. I'm not diminishing that by any means, but that's not exactly the angle we're going to come at today. We're going to look at something a little bit different, because one of the problems when you talk about environmentalism, or really any movement or passion or set of ideals, is that it can become siloed. That when you talk about environment, when we say environmental consciousness, we talk about recycling, we talk about energy saving, but we don't talk about them in context of other ideas. You don't really cross other lines. They're singular to these ideas that you hold into a particular silo, but we don't want to keep it isolated. And so today we're going to talk about some things that we're crossing some of those borders. And one of the first points you both made when we were doing our prep work, you both sent me some paperwork and some comments and things you want to talk about. One of the first things you both said was that environmental health actually directly impacts our physical health of who we are, which is not something that I think is implied a lot, but is not necessarily spoken about a lot. So I'd like to start there. So would you share more about that? What do you mean when you say that environmental health directly impacts our physical health?
So a lot of that mainly relates to air quality and water quality. So everyone should be drinking water every day. And that water, if it's polluted, that's getting into your body and bringing the pollutants into your body. Same with air. You're obviously breathing air every day. And it's important to have clean air so you're not ingesting pollutants.
And we're really lucky to be in Champaign. Our water source is the Mahomet Aquifer, which is directly below us. It's really clean, really good water. Similarly, in the Midwest, we have some really good air quality. So lucky for us, we don't have to worry about those things. But in a lot of other places, they do have to worry about that. So it's just something that you probably don't think about every day. But as you're walking outside, drinking water, that is definitely impacting your physical health.
Is there an aspect of it that also impacts your mental health? Because that's something else you both had mentioned. You said physical and mental, and those are two very closely related, but also separate ideas. So how does being environmentally conscious also affect your mental health?
Yeah, well, if you live in a polluted environment, you're not going to want to spend much time outside. So lucky for us, we don't have that problem. And it is shown that if you spend time outside, whether you're exercising, reading, people watching, just sitting there doing whatever, it really is just good for peace, relaxation, and it's going to calm you down and just promote overall positive mental health.
And it's interesting that you don't think about the direct impact or the direct correlation necessarily, but just being outside. I hear people say, just go outside, it'll help you. Well, how does being outside help you? Well, part of it is when you're outside, you're going to find something to do outside.
Exactly.
And when you find that something to do, when you're doing something, that impacts you as well. And so, one of you both said spend time outside. Why is that so important? What, in your experience, being environmentally conscious, being activists, being someone who studies environmental impact, why is that idea of just being outside, why is that so important?
Well, it really helps you to develop a greater appreciation for nature. So like right now, all of the trees are flowering. So when you're walking outside and you see that, then it makes you really appreciate, like, wow, the earth is really beautiful, and, like, it's important to take action to protect it. And, like, it doesn't even necessarily have to be, like, a really super cool place that you're visiting, like a national park or something. You can just appreciate the beauty that's around you, like, for us students, like, on campus, like, say the Arboretum or something is a really nice place.
Yeah, and we're also busy here on campus. It's good to just stop and kind of appreciate what's around you, take a step back and pause for a moment, appreciate what's around us, like Jenna said. And yeah, Jenna made a good point that we're both very passionate about the environment and about protecting it. And when we spend more time outside, we realize, wow, this campus is beautiful. I would hate to, see pollution and litter and things like that. So I feel like spending time outside helps kind of directly impact our goals.
Whether intentionally or not, the phrase "out of sight, out of mind" is true. Whether it's intentional that I'm just going to ignore something that I don't want to see it, so I'm ignoring it, or you just don't see it all the time, that makes a huge difference. And so you're right, being outside in it. If you're not outside, if you're not looking, if you're not, in nature, then it's easy to ignore if there is an issue, or it's easy to forget the appreciation for something that's good. But if you're exposed to it all the time, like for instance, every student on campus, every semester has a routine. You pretty much walk the same path to class, you walk the same path back. If you do that and then one day you realize that the path has a bunch of trash laying on it, you're going to notice that. But another student who doesn't walk that path every day, they're going to have no idea. So being out and being involved in it is a big part of understanding what's around you. And then that impacts your mental health. There are studies that show that if you have a cluttered bedroom, it can impact your study habits, your relaxation. So that the same thing with being outside. So I'm just going to ask you, what are some of your favorite ways? Because one of the things we like to do is try and make it relatable to people and get their personal experience and not just the theory. But what are some of your favorite ways to be outside? What are some of your favorite things to do?
I love to go for walks. I feel like this campus is so huge and there's so many parts of it that we don't explore. So I love walking really south, like by Research Park or by some of like the farm animals. It's always makes me forget that I'm on a college campus when I'm surrounded by like cows and horses. It's hilarious. I also love being on the quad, especially now that spring has sprung and seeing the quad back into full swing. Everybody hammocking and playing, spike ball and things like that. It makes me like love this campus so much more when I see everybody, all together. So those are probably two of my favorites.
Those are two of my favorites too. And like, it is really nice to see everyone on the quad. It just like makes you smile to see everyone like taking a break and like just enjoying the nature. And like I said earlier, I really like to go to the Arboretum. I think that's like a really beautiful spot. Yeah, and it's a nice walk to get out there.
The campus has a lot of hidden gems, like the Japan House. I feel like there's a lot of places. There's a Red Oak Rain Garden we passed to get here to record this podcast. But I feel like being involved in, environmental organizations, you learn about these hidden gems. And I wish more people on campus knew about them. And I feel like we're doing a better job as a campus of promoting, these hidden gems of campus. Good environmental places.
And now's a good time to find it because, like you said, when you're in Illinois and it's January, February, it's usually gray, cold, nasty, and no one likes to be outside. It just is. But when that first, I always laugh because in the fall, when the weather turns 50, everyone puts on sweaters and jackets. In the spring, when it turns 50, you have tank top and shorts because you're coming out of that bitter cold. And so we all say, oh, it's nice outside. But you do get to go out and you get to enjoy those things and be a part of it. And you can feel, I was walking campus last week for some events, and you just feel a little bit more energized because there's sun, there's people, there's activities. And so being outside is a huge part of how it can impact your mental and physical health. Let's shift gears just a little bit here as well, because it's not just being outside being outside is not just the only way that being environmentally conscious or having sustainability can impact your physical and mental health. Another one that you both put down that I hadn't actually thought about that much was the idea of getting local goods and eating them. Oftentimes when we have that conversation, it's about economic, sustaining local businesses, putting money back into your community, that kind of idea, which is all good and true and necessary. But I hadn't really thought about the idea of personal health, how that helps from an environmental standpoint. So would you share some of that? Because this was pretty new to me.
Yeah, I guess the first thing that comes to mind is being on campus is the Sustainable Student Farm, which is like, I don't know, probably half a mile or maybe a mile south of here. And so that means like the food that's grown there instead of traveling from halfway across the world, it's traveling like a few miles to get to your plate. So that's a lot less emissions from the transportation, a lot less plastic packaging, and like it's really important to have foods that are less packaged in plastic because it's like literally getting into our bloodstream now. Obviously, that's not good. But also, these foods that are like so local, they don't have to have a bunch of preservatives pumped into them. So they're just more fresh and like more nutritious, more natural.
Yeah, and it's also, like you said, it's important to support your local community. And economics aside, if let's say more people start supporting the sustainable student farm, for instance, then maybe there'll be a demand for something similar, and eventually U of I has cultivated more of a, locally sourced foods and their dining halls and things like that. And the produce is always so good, and it tastes so much better than, something that you might find, like Jenna said, from across the world. But yeah, it's important that if we have these means by us that are super close, that we use them because they're better for us, they're better for the community, they're better, like Jenna said. When you eat an apple, you don't think about, like, how far did this travel? How much carbon dioxide was emitted when it came here? Like, what was it packaged in? If you're on the quad on a Thursday when our sustainable student farm is selling their food, then you don't think about any of that because it literally apple picked off a tree into your hand. Like, it's really as simple as that.
That was going to be my next question is, how do you get the local produce?
Yeah, do you know the date?
I believe last year it was on Thursdays. They sold on the quad.
On the quad, they have like a stand from like 11 to 4 or something.
And if you're around during the summer, they have like a community-supported agriculture program where you can get fresh fruits and vegetables every week.
And I live in this area, obviously. I work at U of I, but I live here, I grew up here. And we're blessed that there's so many small towns and so many areas have farmers markets.
Yeah.
And you can find all kinds of really good produce, really good baked goods. You can find all kinds of things. And also you get the benefit of, we talked about being outside. You go to a farmer's market in the summer, you're getting fresh produce, you're being outside, you get that feel. It's a huge advantage for us here. And I've found in my own, because, you said at the beginning, you need to drink water. I'm really bad. You need to eat fruits and vegetables. I'm really bad. I'm good about making my kids do it, but me, myself, I'm really bad. But I've found that if I spend time going to a local produce market, whatever it may be, I'm more apt to eat those things, because when I spent the time to get there, I saw that it always looks so good and it's always so enticing. And so then my diet tends to improve because I'm making the effort to get that local stuff. Whereas if I go to Walmart, Aldi, or whatever, which I'm not knocking those stores. I shop there. I love those stores. But if I go to something bigger brand, I'm just going to buy like, a quick heat up meal, kind of thing, because it's more convenient, that sort of thing. So it really does benefit to go out and be out and get my goods from those types of places.
Yeah, and I feel like another benefit of that is you make a connection with a human being. Like, it's cool to meet somebody from your community that's doing something good for the environment, doing something, that they're passionate about, that maybe is something that you're trying to get into, like you said. Maybe you'll be a little more motivated to eat a fruit if you meet the guy that, grew them, and he's a really cool guy.
Side story on that. I don't have to take too much time because it's not about me, but side story. I live in Arthur, which has a great pumpkin patch. I know Curtis Orchard is the pumpkin patch here, but we have a great pumpkin patch at home. We've had it for years. I went to school with the guys who run it. And my daughter has worked there during the school year, and so as an employee, she gets so much free produce, and so we've gotten pumpkins from them. But in talking to them, I've learned so many pumpkin recipes. And when you go to a farmer's market and you talk to somebody who's passionate about whatever they're selling, they tend to have recipes or advice or recommendations and things like that, and it can make such a huge difference. And so again, you're expanding your palate, you're expanding your diet. It's just it seems like things just kind of snowball with that. When you start getting into some sort of any sort of environmental consciousness, it really starts to domino into bigger and more ideas. Okay, so I feel like we fly through this time so fast every time. You guys have really talked about some really great aspects of how health and personal health ties into environmental health. But let's say someone's listening and they want to get involved. They want to find out more, and they just don't know where to turn. What are some resources that you know of that you recommend for anybody who's listening who wants to continue the conversation or has questions?
Yeah, so you can check out the iSee website. I believe it's sustainability.illinois.edu.
Sustain.illinois.edu. Or maybe not.
Well, we will have, for any of these as you're listening, anything we mentioned, we will have in the bio. So you can just click and go. We'll make sure we have that because I'm bad about remembering too. But go ahead.
Yeah, and so there's a calendar on there. You can check out some of the events that iSee is hosting. And then there's also a lot of organizations on campus for students to get involved in. So like make sure to check those out at the next quad day or sort of tabling event.
Yeah, and through iSee, there's something called the iCAP, which is the Illinois Climate Action Plan, and it's a goal for the University of Illinois to achieve carbon neutrality by 2050, which seems like a lofty goal. So every 5 years, they have a plan of what are we going to do in these next 5 years to eventually achieve that goal. So there's actually a portal, an iCAP portal, and it shows what's going on campus and in the U of I system that we're doing in order to achieve those goals. So let's say one of the goals is more composting or something that's like food recycling, then you can click on that tab and see, oh, there's an anaerobic digester, there's composting bins, there's this, that, and the other thing. So if you're maybe curious about a specific actionable item or action point, that is a great place to go.
And U of I itself, if you're not in our immediate community, there's a lot of extension offices across the state, and they have a lot of information there. And again, on campus, we have a lot of opportunity. I really encourage, if you're listening, check out the website, check out the portal, because we're all very busy. We all have a lot of things going on in our lives. You may not be able to do something big, but there's small things we can all do. And those small things add up and compound. And if everybody makes a commitment to try something, it makes a huge difference in everything. Well, again, it seems like we fly through everything, but I really appreciate you both taking the time to talk about kind of a different aspect, how environmental health can impact your personal health, because not only do we have this one world to take care of, we each have one body to take care of. And so it's really important to focus on both of those and how they connect. And if we can have one impact the other, then it just makes it easier to maintain both. But thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you both taking the time and coming to talk to me.
Thanks for having us.
Environmental health is something that it has been talked about for a long time, and it will continue to be talked about because it's extremely important. But so often when we have these talking points, we tend to keep focused on the central issue and not always talk about the things that interconnect. And one of those things is personal health. Personal health is interconnected with environmental health so much. It makes such a difference into who we are, which then leads into your mental health, which leads into your relaxation, your energy, your ability to focus, and your motivation. All these things are tied together. And so if we focus on one, it will impact the others. If you have questions, if you're uncertain where to go from here, you want to get involved, whether big or small, check out the resources in our bio, like I said, because we have a lot of great opportunities here on this campus and in this area for anyone to be involved. If you have questions, contact iSee. If you have questions, contact Healthy Illini here at McKinley. We'd be happy to talk with you. We'd be happy to point you in a direction to get you connected with somebody, because this is an important topic and it's something we're passionate about, and we want to keep moving forward on it. But thank you for joining us today. You are on a personal journey no matter where you are in it. You are important and you matter. Your health and wellness are important and matter, and we're here to keep you well to excel. So go have a great week, Illini. Let us know how you're doing, and we'll catch you next time on Healthy Illini.